Future wife. 2 words. That's all it took to destroy 8 years of marriage. Caroline stood frozen at the investment gala, 7 months pregnant, watching her husband introduce his mistress to 300 guests. His hand rested on another woman's back. His wedding ring caught the light. But here's what Derek didn't know. His pregnant wife wasn't the helpless woman he thought she was. She wasn't financially dependent. She wasn't powerless. In fact, she had been secretly funding his entire company for years. And in the next 60 seconds, while he was busy calling his mistress his future wife, Caroline walked into a private room and signed a document that made her the majority owner of everything he had built. He thought he was replacing her. She was about to become his boss. What happens when a cheating husband discovers his pregnant wife holds all the power? When every lie he told comes back to destroy him? When the woman he underestimated for 8 years finally stops hiding? This is not just a story about betrayal. This is a story about a woman who discovered she had been her own prison warden all along. And the moment she walked through that unlocked door, everything changed. Stay with me until the end, because the final twist will leave you speechless. The lesson and value. This story carries a powerful truth that every woman needs to hear. Your worth is not determined by how others see you. Your strength is not measured by how small you make yourself to fit into someone else's life. Sometimes the worst moments become the doorways to our greatest transformations. Sometimes betrayal is the gift that sets us free. Caroline spent 8 years hiding her brilliance to make her husband feel bigger. Many of us do the same. We shrink, we accommodate. We forget who we truly are. This story reminds us that the prison door has always been unlocked. We just need the courage to walk through. The meaning of this story is simple, but profound. Never let anyone convince you that you are less than you are. Never trade your authentic self for the illusion of love. And when life forces you to start over, remember that you are not starting from nothing. You are starting from experience. Caroline's journey teaches us that real power comes not from revenge, but from reclaiming our own truth, from building something that cannot be taken away, from becoming the person we were always meant to be, future wife. The words sliced through the champagne chatter like a blade through silk. Caroline Mitchell froze behind the marble pillar, one hand pressed against her 7-month pregnant belly. The other gripped a crystal glass of sparkling water so tightly, her knuckles went white. The autumn gala at Whitfield Capitol hummed with polished laughter and clinking glasses. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across 300 of Boston's most influential investors. The scent of expensive perfume mingled with fresh flowers. Somewhere, a string quartet played Vivaldi. None of it registered. Caroline's ears rang with those 2 words, future wife, spoken in her husband's voice, that confident, charming voice she had loved for 8 years. Derek Mitchell stood 20 feet away. His hand rested on the lower back of Amber Sinclair, his marketing director, the same hand that had rubbed cocoa butter on Caroline's stretch marks just that morning, the same hand that wore the wedding ring she had saved 3 months' salary to buy. "Everyone, I want you to meet Amber," Derek announced to the small circle of investors. "My future wife." The baby kicked, hard, as if she understood. Caroline grabbed the pillar for support. Her legs threatened to give out. The sparkling water in her glass trembled. Amber laughed, that performative, tinkling laugh Caroline had heard at 100 company events. She had always found it annoying. She had never considered it dangerous. "Derek, stop!" Amber playfully swatted his arm. "We're not supposed to announce anything yet. Yet." The word lodged in Caroline's chest like a splinter. Not supposed to announce yet. Which meant there was a plan, a timeline, a future that did not include the pregnant wife standing 20 feet away. Caroline's mind raced through the past months, the late nights at the office, the weekend conferences, the way Derek's phone always faced down on the table, the new cologne she did not recognize. The signs had been there. She had chosen not to see them. A waiter passed with a tray of champagne. The glasses caught the light and sparkled. Caroline remembered her wedding reception. Derek had given a speech about forever, about building a life together, about the family they would create. She was 7 months pregnant with that family, and he was calling another woman his future wife, Mrs. Mitchell. The voice came from her left, Thomas Whitfield, 62 years old, silver-haired, worth more than Derek's entire company would ever be. Caroline forced herself to breathe, straightened her spine, arranged her face into something resembling composure. "Thomas," she said. Her voice sounded distant, hollow. "I believe we have a meeting scheduled." His eyes were carefully neutral. The private dining room, the paperwork for the Series C investment. Caroline's hand moved to her belly. The baby shifted, settled. In another life, she would have fled, run to the bathroom, called her best friend sobbing, confronted Derek in a scene that would end her marriage and her dignity in one spectacular explosion. But this was not another life. This was the life she had built, carefully, quietly, for 8 years. The life Derek knew nothing about. "Of course, Thomas." Carolyn set down her water glass, smoothed her emerald maternity gown. "Let's not keep the partners waiting." She walked toward the private dining room without looking back at her husband, without giving him the satisfaction of seeing her shatter. Because Caroline Mitchell was not the woman Derek thought he had married. She had never been that woman. The private dining room smelled of leather and old money. Oil paintings lined the walls. A mahogany table stretched across the center, surrounded by 8 leather chairs. Margaret Holloway sat at the head of the table, 58 years old, silver reading glasses perched on her nose, a Mont Blanc pen ready in her hand. Maggie had been Caroline's mentor for 8 years, her secret business partner, the woman who had seen something special in a 24-year-old financial analyst from a working-class family, Carolyn. Maggie's voice softened as she took in Caroline's face. "You heard?" "I heard." "Are you certain you want to do this tonight, given what just happened out there?" Caroline lowered herself into the chair across from Maggie. Her back ached, her feet were swollen, her heart was breaking, but her mind was clear. Clearer than it had been in months. "I have never been more certain of anything." Maggie studied her for a long moment, then nodded, slid the documents across the table. The papers told a story Derek Mitchell had never bothered to learn. His wife's story. Caroline Mitchell, maiden name Caroline Ward, daughter of Patricia Ward, a cleaning woman who worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. Granddaughter of Eleanor Ward, who had sewn dresses for wealthy women while dreaming of numbers and stock tickers. At 15, Caroline had won a national mathematics competition. At 18, she had earned a full scholarship to Wharton. At 22, she had caught the attention of Maggie Holloway, founder of Holloway Capital. At 24, she had met Derek Mitchell at a tech conference. He had assumed she was a secretary. She had let him. For 8 years, she had let him believe she was less than she was. A supportive wife, a homemaker in training, someone who needed his guidance on financial matters. All while quietly building an investment portfolio worth more than his entire company. The pen felt heavy in Caroline's hand, not from the weight of the metal, from the weight of the choice. This signature would give her 51% controlling interest in Mitchell Technologies. Derek would keep 49%. He would still be CEO, still have his office and his title and his illusion of power. But every major decision would require her approval. Every single one, including the terms of any divorce settlement. Caroline signed her name. The ink gleamed wet against the paper. In the ballroom, she could hear Derek's voice booming about future plans, about the exciting direction of his company, about the woman he planned to spend his life with. He had no idea that his pregnant wife had just become his boss. Seconds. That was all it had taken. Seconds to hear his betrayal. Seconds to sign away his control. Maggie gathered the papers. Her expression was unreadable. "What happens now?" she asked. Caroline stood, placed both hands on her belly, felt her daughter move. "Now I go back to that party. I smile at my husband. I pretend I heard nothing. And tomorrow?" Caroline walked toward the door, paused with her hand on the handle. "Tomorrow, I decide what to do with the rest of my life." She stepped back into the golden light of the gala. The string quartet had switched to Bach. The champagne was still flowing. Derek was still laughing with his future wife. Caroline moved through the crowd like a ghost. She felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, just a strange, hollow calm. This must be what shock felt like, the moment before the pain arrived. Derek spotted her from across the room. For one flickering instant, something like fear crossed his face. Then he smiled, that easy, charming smile she had fallen in love with a decade ago. "Caroline," he crossed to her, kissed her cheek. "There you are. I was wondering where you disappeared to." His cologne washed over her, the new cologne, the one she did not recognize. "I had a meeting," she said. "A meeting? At a party?" "With Thomas Whitfield. Some paperwork for the investment." Derek's eyes lit up. The investment he had been chasing for 18 months. The money he thought would save his company. "And? How did it go? Did they give any indication?" "It's done," Caroline said. "Done? What do you mean done?" "The Series C investment. It closed tonight." Derek stared at her. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "That's incredible." He pulled her into a hug. "Caroline, that's incredible news. Why didn't you come find me immediately? We should celebrate." Over his shoulder, Caroline saw Amber watching from across the room. The woman he planned to marry. The woman who thought she would inherit everything Caroline had helped build. "I'm tired," Caroline said. "The baby's been active all night. I think I should go home." Of course, of course." Derek was already pulling out his phone. "Let me just say a few goodbyes. I'll meet you at the car." He kissed her cheek again, that casual, distracted kiss he had given her 1,000 times. Then he was gone, back to the crowd, back to the people who mattered. Caroline stood alone in the middle of the gala, surrounded by golden light and expensive perfume and 300 strangers. Her hand moved to her belly. "It's going to be okay," she whispered. "Mommy's going to make sure it's okay." The baby kicked once, softly, as if she believed her. The drive home took 43 minutes. Derek talked the entire time, about the investment, about what it meant for the company, about the expansion plans he had been working on for months, about the new office space, the additional hires, the product launches that would change everything. Caroline sat in the passenger seat and watched the city lights blur past. She made appropriate sounds at appropriate intervals, nodded when nodding seemed expected. She wondered when she had become so good at pretending. Their house sat at the end of a tree-lined street in Newton, a 4-bedroom colonial with a wraparound porch, the house where they were supposed to raise their daughter. The house Derek had promised would be filled with love and laughter and family dinners. Caroline climbed the stairs slowly. Her back ached. Her heart ached worse. "I'll be up in a few minutes," Derek called from downstairs. "Just need to send some emails about the investment." "Take your time." She heard his office door close. Heard the familiar sound of him settling into his chair, the click of his keyboard. Was he emailing investors? Or was he texting Amber? Caroline sat on the edge of their bed, the bed they had picked out together 3 years ago, the bed where her daughter had been conceived. She pulled out her phone, scrolled to her favorites, hit the number she knew by heart. Brooke answered on the second ring. Caroline? It's 11:30. Is everything okay? Brooke Callahan, best friend since college, maid of honor at her wedding, one of the best divorce attorneys in Massachusetts. No, Caroline said. Nothing is okay. She told Brooke everything, the gala, the words, the signature, the way Derek was downstairs right now, probably texting the woman he planned to replace her with. Brooke listened without interrupting. That was one of the things Caroline loved about her. She knew when to talk and when to listen. 2 things, Brooke said when Caroline finished. First, I'm so sorry. I know that doesn't help, but I'm so sorry. What's the second thing? I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you months ago. Caroline's stomach dropped. What? I've known about Amber. Not the affair, specifically, but the rumors. They've been circulating for over a year. I kept telling myself it was just gossip. That Derek wouldn't be stupid enough to cheat on you. How long, Brooke? How long have people been talking? Silence. Then, since before you got pregnant. The words hit like a physical blow. Caroline doubled over, pressed her forehead to her knees. Caroline, are you there? I'm here. There's more. I did some digging after the first rumors started. The affair has been going on for at least 2 years, maybe longer. 2 years. Before the pregnancy, before the nursery they had painted together, before the baby names that they had debated for hours. He planned this baby, Caroline whispered, to keep me compliant. We don't know that for certain, don't we? Brooke was quiet. The silence was answer enough. I'm filing for divorce, Caroline said. Tomorrow. As your attorney, I need to advise you to take some time. Think this through. Make sure you're making decisions from a clear head, not from shock. And as my best friend? As your best friend, I'll have the papers ready by 9 a.m.? Caroline ended the call, set down her phone, stared at the wall. The nursery was next door, soft yellow walls, white furniture, the crib they had assembled together on a Sunday afternoon, laughing at the incomprehensible instructions. Derek had been so excited that day. Or so she had thought. Had he been texting Amber between reading instruction panels? Had he been thinking about his future wife while building a crib for the daughter he would leave behind? Caroline walked to the nursery, stood in the doorway, breathed in the scent of fresh paint and new fabric. I let him underestimate me, she said to the empty room. For 8 years, I let him believe I was less than I am. The words felt true, painfully true. She had wanted so badly to be loved that she had hidden the best parts of herself. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maggie. Document is filed with the SEC. Official as of midnight. You now own 51% of Mitchell Technologies. Whatever you decide to do next, I support you. Caroline read the message twice and let it sink in. She was no longer just Derek's pregnant wife. She was his majority shareholder. His silent partner, the woman who held his future in her hands. The bedroom door opened. Derek appeared in the hallway. Coming to bed? Caroline looked at him, at the face she had loved for 8 years, at the man she had trusted with her future. In a minute. I'm just looking at the nursery. Everything okay? He crossed to her, wrapped his arms around her from behind, rested his hands on her belly. You seem distant tonight. Just tired. Big night. It was a great night. He kissed her hair. Everything is finally coming together. The investment, the baby, our life. Our life, as if they were a team, as if he was not planning to replace her with someone younger and thinner and not pregnant with his child. I'm going to run a bath, she said. "I'll be in soon." She locked the bathroom door, turned on the water, sat on the edge of the tub, fully clothed. The steam rose around her. Her reflection blurred in the mirror. For a long time, she just sat there, breathing, existing. Her daughter kicked. "I know," Caroline whispered. "I know, but I need a minute. Just 1 minute to fall apart before I put myself back together." She gave herself exactly 5 minutes. 5 minutes to cry. 5 minutes to grieve the life she thought she had. Then she wiped her eyes, straightened her dress, looked at herself in the foggy mirror. The woman looking back was not the same woman who had walked into that gala 4 hours ago. That woman had been naive, trusting, blind. This woman had her eyes wide open. "What happens now?" she asked her reflection. The reflection had no answer, but Caroline did. Now she fought. For her daughter, for her dignity, for the life she deserved, whatever that looked like. 3 days passed in a strange kind of limbo. Caroline went through the motions of normal life, made breakfast, attended her prenatal appointment, answered emails, pretended everything was fine. Derek noticed nothing. He was too busy celebrating the investment, too busy planning expansions and new hires and product launches, too busy texting on his phone at all hours. On the fourth morning, Caroline drove to her mother's house in Pennsylvania. She did not tell Derek she was leaving, just packed a bag and got in the car. Patricia Ward lived in the same small house where Caroline had grown up. A 3-bedroom Cape Cod with a chain-link fence and a vegetable garden in the back. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive, but it was filled with love. Real love. The kind that did not come with conditions. Her mother was waiting on the porch, 61 years old, still working part-time as a bookkeeper, still beautiful in the way that women who have lived hard lives and kept their grace can be. "My girl," Patricia said. She opened her arms. Caroline collapsed into them. The tears she had been holding back for days finally broke free. They sat on the porch for an hour. Caroline talked. Patricia listened. The summer cicadas hummed in the trees. The smell of honeysuckle drifted from the neighbor's yard. "He called her his future wife," Caroline said, "in front of everyone, while I was standing 20 feet away, while I was carrying his child." Patricia's hands tightened on her daughter's. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to go back to that party and burn his entire life to the ground. Part of me wants to pretend I never heard anything. Just go back to the way things were. Is that what you want? The way things were?" Caroline thought about her marriage, the beautiful house, the successful husband, the life she had worked so hard to build, the loneliness, the small humiliations, the way Derek talked over her at dinner parties, the way he dismissed her opinions on anything except childcare and home decoration. "No," she admitted. "The way things were wasn't good enough. I just didn't let myself see it." Her phone buzzed again. It had been buzzing all morning. "Is that him?" Patricia asked. "He's called 47 times. 47. "What does he say?" "That I'm overreacting. That I misheard. That Amber is just a colleague and I'm being hormonal." Patricia's face hardened. She had never liked Derek, had never said so directly, but Caroline knew. Mothers always knew. "And what do you say?" "Nothing. I haven't answered a single call." Her phone buzzed again. Caroline silenced it, set it face down on the porch railing. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Something I've never told anyone except Maggie." Patricia waited. "I'm not the person Derek thinks I am. I'm not the person anyone thinks I am." Caroline took a deep breath. "I'm one of the largest individual investors in tech startups on the East Coast. I have a portfolio worth more money than Derek has made in his entire career. And as of 3 nights ago, I own the majority stake in his company." Patricia's eyes went wide. Then she laughed. A deep, surprised, delighted laugh. "My girl," she said. "My clever, clever girl. You're not angry that I kept secrets? Honey, every woman keeps secrets. The smart ones keep secrets that protect them." Patricia took her daughter's hands. "What are you going to do with all that power?" "I don't know yet, but I have options. For the first time in 8 years, I have options." That night, Caroline lay in her childhood bedroom, the same twin bed, the same ceiling she had stared at as a teenager, dreaming of a bigger life. She had built that bigger life, a life Derek did not even know existed. The baby kicked, restless, active. "Sorry, little one," Caroline whispered. "Mommy's having a hard time sleeping too." Her phone glowed with another text from Derek. "Caroline, this is getting ridiculous. You're 7 months pregnant. You shouldn't be traveling. Come home. We need to talk about this like adults." Like adults. As if she were the child throwing a tantrum. As if she were the one who had done something wrong. She typed a response, then deleted it. Typed another, deleted that too. Finally, she turned off her phone, rolled onto her side, pulled the familiar quilt up to her chin, the same quilt her grandmother had made. The grandmother who had dreamed of numbers and stock tickers while sewing dresses for rich women. "I made it, Grandma," Caroline whispered into the darkness. "I made it out. I just didn't realize I brought the wrong person with me." The house settled around her. Her mother's footsteps creaked down the hall. Outside, a car passed on the quiet street. Caroline closed her eyes. For the first time in 3 days, she slept. The memories came flooding in. The pregnancy announcement dinner. They had invited both families. Her mother, Derek's parents, a few close friends. Derek had stood up and tapped his glass with a spoon. "We have news," he had said. His smile had been radiant. "We're going to be parents." The room had erupted in cheers. Champagne corks had popped. Caroline had cried happy tears. Amber had been there, at the other end of the table, watching, knowing. Had she texted Derek congratulations? Had they laughed together about the pregnant wife who had no idea? The gender reveal party. Pink balloons, pink confetti, pink everything. Derek had lifted Caroline off her feet and spun her around. "A daughter!" he had shouted. "We're having a daughter!" He had stepped away after that to take a work call. He had been gone for 20 minutes. Had he been calling Amber, telling her about the daughter he was planning to leave behind, every late night at the office, every weekend conference, every time he had said he was too tired for intimacy but spent hours on his phone in the bathroom? The signs had been there, written in neon, screaming for attention. And Caroline had chosen not to see them, because seeing them would have meant admitting she had made a mistake, that the life she had built was a lie, that the man she had trusted was not worthy of that trust. She had ignored the truth to protect the fantasy, and now the fantasy was burning down around her. The baby kicked, hard. "I know," Caroline said. "I know. We're going to figure this out. I promise." She lay awake until dawn, watching the light change on the ceiling, remembering everything she had tried so hard to forget. Ruth Mitchell arrived at Patricia's house on the 6th day. Caroline was in the garden, helping her mother weed the tomatoes. The July sun beat down on her back. Dirt caked her fingernails. For the first time in days, she felt almost normal. Then she heard the car door slam. Ruth Mitchell. 64 years old, old money Boston. The kind of woman who wore pearls to the grocery store and had opinions about everything. She had never approved of her son marrying the cleaning woman's daughter, had made that clear in 1,000 small ways over the years. The backhanded compliments, the pointed comments about proper etiquette, the way she always seemed surprised when Caroline used the right fork. "Caroline." Ruth's voice dripped with false concern as she crossed the lawn. "This little tantrum has gone on long enough. Derek needs you at home. The investors are getting nervous. Caroline stood slowly. Her back ached from bending. Her hands were covered in dirt. She did not apologize for either. The investors are fine, Ruth. You don't know anything about investors. Caroline almost laughed. Almost. She had made more money on a single investment than Ruth had inherited in her entire life. Actually, I know quite a lot. Ruth's carefully maintained composure flickered. Derek told me everything. You're having some kind of pregnancy psychosis, imagining affairs, making accusations. He's trying to protect you from embarrassing yourself further. Pregnancy psychosis. Caroline wiped her hands on her gardening gloves. That's what he's calling it. He's being very understanding about the whole thing. Most husbands would not be so patient with this kind of behavior. Patricia appeared at Caroline's side. Her mother's face was calm, but her eyes were dangerous. Mrs. Mitchell, Patricia said, I think you should leave. Ruth ignored her, kept her eyes fixed on Caroline. Derek loves you. Whatever you think you heard at that party was clearly a misunderstanding. Come home, get some rest, let this whole unpleasantness blow over. Did he tell you everything, Ruth? Caroline's voice was steady. Did he tell you that 2 years ago, while you were helping plan our wedding, he was sleeping with his marketing director? That's a lie. Did he tell you that the baby I'm carrying was conceived specifically to trap me in a marriage he was already planning to leave? How dare you? Did he tell you, Caroline's voice dropped to something cold and hard, that as of 6 nights ago, I own the majority stake in his company? Silence. The kind that precedes an earthquake. Ruth's face cycled through emotions. Disbelief, calculation, fear. That's impossible, she said. Derek didn't let me do anything. I did it myself, with my own money, my own investments, my own work. Caroline stepped closer, close enough to see the sweat beading on Ruth's upper lip. Your son underestimated me, just like you've underestimated me for 8 years. And now I own his future. Ruth took a step back. Her heel caught in the grass. She stumbled, caught herself on the garden fence wall. This isn't over, she said. Derek will fight this. Our lawyers? Your lawyers can try. Caroline smiled. It was not a kind smile. I have very good lawyers too, and unlike Derek, I actually know how to read a contract. Ruth turned and walked back to her car. Her steps were unsteady. Her back was rigid with humiliation. The car peeled out of the driveway. Gravel sprayed against the fence. Patricia watched until it disappeared around the corner. Then she turned to her daughter. That felt good, she said. It did. Caroline nodded slowly. It really did. She had spent 8 years biting her tongue, 8 years being the perfect daughter-in-law. 8 years pretending Ruth's comments didn't hurt. No more pretending. That night, the phone calls stopped coming from Derek's number. They started coming from his lawyer's office instead. Brooke intercepted them all. They're claiming the investment signature was obtained under duress, she reported. That you are having a mental breakdown, that you manipulated your way into the deal. That's ridiculous. Of course it is, but they're going to try. They're going to paint you as an unstable pregnant woman who can't be trusted with business decisions. Caroline's hand found her belly. The baby kicked, strong, insistent. Let them try. The battle lines were drawn. The war was just beginning. But for the first time since that gala, Caroline felt ready to fight. The news broke on the 7th day. Caroline was eating breakfast at her mother's kitchen table when Brooke called. Her voice was tight, controlled. Someone leaked to the press. Check TechCrunch. Now. Caroline opened her laptop. The headline screamed at her. Mitchell Tech CEO's wife claims majority stake. A mid-affair scandal. The article was brutal. Quotes from anonymous sources, speculation about mental instability, a photo of Caroline from the gala, looking tired and pregnant and overwhelmed. They had framed her as the crazy wife, the hormonal woman who couldn't accept that her husband had moved on. Within hours, the story was everywhere. Tech blogs, gossip sites, local news, national news. The comment sections filled with opinions. She's obviously faking for money. Another gold digger destroying a successful man. Who gets their husband's company in a divorce? Sketchy as hell. Pregnancy makes women crazy. Everyone knows that. Caroline read every comment, cataloged every insult. Let the hatred wash over her sapo. Then she closed the laptop, set it aside, walked into the backyard. The tomato plants were heavy with fruit, red and ripe and ready. Her mother had tended this garden for 30 years. Through drought and storm and heartbreak, plants did not care about public opinion. They just grew. They just survived. Caroline picked a tomato, bit into it, let the juice run down her chin. The baby kicked, as if in approval. We're going to survive this too, Caroline whispered. I promise. Derek released a statement that afternoon. My wife is experiencing pregnancy-related mental health challenges. Our family asks for privacy during this difficult time. Pregnancy-related mental health challenges. 5 words that erased everything she had accomplished, everything she had built. He was framing her as insane before she could speak a single word in her own defense. Brooke called again. We need to respond, publicly, get ahead of this narrative. No, Caroline, he's destroying your reputation. You have to fight back. Not yet. Caroline watched a cardinal land on the tomato cage, red against green, beautiful. Let him think he's winning. Let him get comfortable. What are you planning? I'm planning to give him enough rope to hang himself. 3 days later, Ruth Mitchell appeared on a local news segment, defending her son, attacking her daughter-in-law. Caroline has always been unstable. I tried to warn Derek before the wedding, but he loved her too much to see the truth. The reporter nodded sympathetically, asked leading questions, let Ruth paint a picture of a troubled woman who had deceived a good man. Caroline watched the segment on her mother's couch. Patricia sat beside her, seething. That lying witch, Patricia muttered. I have half a mind to call that station myself. Don't, Caroline kept her voice calm. Everything she says will be used against them later. Let her talk. You're being too patient. I've been patient for 8 years, Mama. A few more days won't hurt. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I need to talk to you, alone. It's Kevin Marsh. I have information you need. Kevin Marsh, Derek's business partner, the nervous man who always seemed afraid of his own shadow. Caroline stared at the message, considered the possibilities. She typed back, Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my mother's house. Come alone. Kevin arrived at 8:50. His car was dusty from the drive. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. He held a flash drive in his shaking hand. I can't do this anymore, Caroline. His voice cracked. I've watched Derek lie and manipulate for years. I told myself it was just business, that everyone does it. But what he's doing to you... He swallowed hard. My mother went through something similar. My father had a whole other family across town. She never recovered. What's on the drive, Kevin? Emails, texts, financial records. 2 years of documented deception. Caroline took the drive. It was warm from his grip. Why now? Why come to me? Because I looked at myself in the mirror this morning and didn't recognize the man looking back. Kevin's eyes filled with tears. Derek was my best friend. I thought I knew him, but the things he's done to you, the way he talks about you when you're not around. He shook his head. That's not friendship. That's not anything worth protecting. Carolyn Nunn turned the drive over in her hand. Such a small thing, such enormous power. What do you want in return? Nothing. I just want to be able to sleep at night again. He left 20 minutes later. Carolyn sat alone at her mother's kitchen table, staring at the drive. The sun moved across the floor. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere, a dog barked. Everything was about to change. And she was ready. The flash drive contained 247 files. Caroline spent 3 days reviewing every one. Emails between Derek and Amber going back 2.5 years. Text messages, planning secret meetings. Financial records showing money siphoned from company accounts to purchase a condo in Amber's name. And the worst part, the part that made her physically sick, emails between Derek and his lawyer, discussing California community property laws, planning how to hide assets before the inevitable divorce. He had been planning to leave her for at least 18 months, before the pregnancy, before the nursery, before the promises he had whispered against her hair in the dark. The baby had been a delay tactic, a way to keep Caroline compliant while he moved chess pieces into position. She had been played, completely and utterly played. Caroline called Brooke. I have everything we need, financial documents, communication records, proof of the affair, and the embezzlement. How did you get this? Someone with a conscience finally woke up. Can you trust the source? Caroline thought about Kevin's face, the tears in his eyes, the shame in his voice. Yes, I can trust him. They spent the next week building the case. Brooke brought in forensic accountants, financial analysts, a PR team that specialized in reputation rehabilitation. The team worked out of a rented office space in Philadelphia, away from the press, away from Derek's lawyers, away from the noise. Caroline attended every meeting, reviewed every document, asked every question she could think of. Maggie flew in from Boston to join them. I've called an emergency board meeting, Maggie said. 2 weeks from now. You'll present the evidence directly to the directors. Will they believe me? They'll believe the bank records. They'll believe the emails. They'll believe the paper trail Derek was too arrogant to hide. Caroline nodded, set her hand on her belly. The baby kicked. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of losing, of winning, of what comes after. Maggie took her hand, squeezed tight. What comes after is up to you, but whatever you decide, you won't be alone. The public disaster intensified while they prepared. Derek gave interviews to anyone who would listen. He told the same story every time. His wife was mentally unstable. The pregnancy had triggered a breakdown. He was doing everything he could to protect his family. The comments kept coming. That poor man, stuck with a crazy wife. Typical gold digger behavior, using pregnancy to manipulate. I feel bad for the kid, growing up with a mother like that. Caroline stopped reading. There was no point. The people writing those comments did not know her, did not know the truth, did not care about the truth. They just wanted someone to hate. The night before the board meeting, Caroline drove back to Newton, not to the house, to a park 2 blocks away, a playground where she had imagined pushing her daughter on swings. Catching her at the bottom of slides, she sat on a bench in the darkness. The equipment stood empty. The chains creaked in the breeze. This isn't how I wanted things to go, she said to no one, to everyone. I wanted a family, a real family, a partner who loved me. The baby kicked. I know, that's not what I got, but maybe. She pressed both hands to her belly. Maybe what I build from here will be better. Maybe we'll be okay. The chains creaked. A car passed on the street. Somewhere, an owl called. Caroline sat in the dark for a long time, saying goodbye to the future she had imagined, making room for the future she would create. The board meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday. The Monday before, Caroline had a prenatal checkup. Dr. Vance's office was in a medical building near the hospital. Caroline had been coming here for 7 months. The receptionist knew her by name. The nurses knew her favorite water temperature. She pulled into the parking lot at 9:30. Her appointment was at 10. Derek was waiting by her car. Caroline's heart slammed against her ribs. She had not seen him in almost 3 weeks. He looked thinner, darker circles under his eyes. His usual polished appearance had slipped. Caroline. His voice was careful, controlled. Please, can we just talk? She gathered her purse, her phone, her keys. We have nothing to talk about. The board meeting. I know what you're planning. I know what Kevin gave you. Of course he knew. He had probably been monitoring Kevin for weeks. Then you know what's coming. It doesn't have to be this way. Derek stepped closer, blocked her path to the door. We can work this out, privately, without destroying everything I've built. Everything you've built? Caroline's voice cracked with bitter laughter. I helped build that company, Derek. My investments kept it alive through 2 near bankruptcies. My connections opened doors you couldn't open yourself. I know you did. His face softened. That charming, earnest face she had loved for 8 years. I've made mistakes. I admit that. But I love you, Caroline. I love our daughter. We can start over. Counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. For one terrible moment, she wanted to believe him. Wanted to step back into the comfortable lie. Wanted to wake up from this nightmare and find her old life waiting. The baby kicked. Hard. The affair has been going on for 2 years, Derek. You planned this pregnancy to trap me. You were going to hide assets and leave me with nothing. That's not... I've read the emails. I've seen the financial records. I know exactly what you planned to do. His face changed. The mask slipped. Underneath was something cold, calculating. A man she had never seen before. You've changed. His voice hardened. The woman I married would never act like this. The woman you married didn't know she was living a lie. She pushed past him, walked into Dr. Vance's office, did not look back. The nurse took her blood pressure. 142/92. Too high. Stress? The nurse asked gently. You could say that. Dr. Vance came in 10 minutes later, reviewed the numbers, studied Caroline's face. I'm putting you on modified bed rest for the next 2 weeks. The blood pressure is concerning, and the baby's position suggests she might come early. I have a board meeting tomorrow. The board meeting can wait. Your health cannot. Caroline opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She had been fighting so hard for so long, fighting to uncover the truth, fighting to protect her future, fighting to prove she was not the crazy woman Derek claimed she was. Maybe the fight could wait one more day. Can I make a phone call first? Of course. She called Brooke, explained the situation. We can postpone, Brooke said. The evidence isn't going anywhere. No, go ahead without me. Present everything to the board. I'll attend by video if I have to. Are you sure? Caroline looked down at her belly, at the daughter who depended on her, who needed her to survive. I'm sure. Some battles need to be won in person, but this one just needs to be won. She spent that night at her mother's house, in her childhood bedroom, in her grandmother's quilt. The darkness pressed in, the old fears crept closer. What if they didn't believe the evidence? What if Derek's lawyers found a way to discredit Kevin? What if she lost everything? The baby kicked, restless, active. I know you're scared too, Caroline whispered. I know this isn't the family I promised you, but I'm going to protect you, no matter what happens tomorrow. I'm going to protect you. She lay awake until 3 in the morning, watching shadows move across the ceiling, remembering every choice that had brought her to this moment, every time she had stayed silent when she should have spoken, every time she had pretended not to see what was right in front of her. Every time she had chosen comfort over truth. No more. No more pretending. No more silence. Whatever happened tomorrow, she would face it with her eyes open. She finally fell asleep as the first light of dawn crept through the curtains. The board meeting started at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Caroline watched on her laptop from her mother's couch. Her feet were elevated. Her blood pressure monitor sat on the coffee table. Her mother hovered nearby, pretending not to hover. The Mitchell Technologies boardroom filled the screen, 12 leather chairs around an oval table, oil paintings on the walls, Derek's portrait prominently displayed. Brooke sat at the head of the table, calm, professional, deadly. Derek sat across from her. His lawyers flanked him like bodyguards. His face was carefully blank. "Thank you all for coming on short notice," Brooke began. "I represent Caroline Mitchell, majority shareholder of Mitchell Technologies. We have evidence of significant financial improprieties that require immediate board attention." The presentation lasted 2 hours. The emails, the financial records, the hidden accounts, the condo purchased with company funds, the plans to manipulate asset division before divorce proceedings, document after document, email after email, a paper trail of deception and theft. Derek's lawyers objected constantly, threatened legal action, demanded the presentation be stopped. The board members listened, reviewed, whispered to each other. When Brooke finished, the room was silent. Thomas Whitfield spoke first. His voice was grave. "Mr. Mitchell, do you have any response to these allegations?" Derek stood. His face was red. His hands were shaking. "This is a witch hunt. My wife is mentally unstable. She's manipulated these documents. The documents are independently verified." Brooke's voice cut through his denial. "We have forensic accountants who can confirm their authenticity. We have the original sources willing to testify." "Kevin." Derek's voice dripped with contempt. "You're trusting Kevin? He's been bitter since I passed him over for a promotion 2 years ago." "We're trusting the evidence, Mr. Mitchell, not the source." The board called a vote, 7-2 in favor of removing Derek Mitchell as CEO pending a full financial audit. Caroline watched her husband's face collapse on the screen, watched him realize that the game was over, watched him understand that he had lost. She felt nothing, not triumph, not joy, not even satisfaction, just relief. Like a weight she had been carrying for years had finally been lifted. Derek stormed out of the meeting. The video feed showed him pushing past his lawyers, slamming the door behind him. Brooke looked into the camera, smiled. "It's done," she said. Caroline leaned back against the couch cushions, set her hand on her belly. "It's done, baby girl. We did it." The baby kicked once, softly, as if in acknowledgement. Her mother appeared with a cup of chamomile tea, set it on the coffee table, sat down beside her. "How do you feel?" "Tired," Caroline admitted. "Relieved? Sad?" "Sad? Why sad?" "Because I spent 8 years loving a man who never existed. The Derek I thought I married, the one who spun me around when we found out we were having a daughter. That man was a fiction, a performance." Patricia took her daughter's hand, squeezed tight. "The love you felt was real. The life you built was real. The choices he made don't erase what you did, what you created." Carolyn looked around her mother's living room, the worn furniture, the family photos on the walls, the quilt her grandmother had made. "I thought I needed a big house and a successful husband to prove I had made it, that I had escaped where I came from. And now? Now I think maybe making it means something different. Maybe it means building something that can't be taken away, something that's just mine." Her phone buzzed. A text from Maggie. "Board has appointed interim CEO. Derek banned from premises pending investigation. Company stocks stable. We did it. Caroline read the message twice. Let it sink in. She was not Derek's wife anymore. Not in any way that mattered. She was Caroline Ward Mitchell, majority shareholder, investor, mother-to-be, a woman who had finally stopped hiding. What happens now? Patricia asked. Caroline set down her phone, picked up her tea. Now I figure out who I want to be. For the first time in my life, I get to choose. 3 months later, October, the leaves had turned, red and gold and amber. The air smelled of wood smoke and apples. Caroline's water broke on a Tuesday morning. The drive to the hospital took 17 minutes. Her mother drove while Caroline breathed through the contractions. The world blurred past the window. Trees, cars, people living ordinary lives on an extraordinary day. The delivery room was cold and bright. Machines beeped. Nurses moved with practiced efficiency. You're doing great, Dr. Vance said. Just a few more pushes. 13 hours of labor, 13 hours of pain and fear and determination. And then, Grace Eleanor Mitchell came into the world at 11:42 p.m. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 10 fingers, 10 toes, her grandmother's eyes, her great-grandmother's stubborn chin. Caroline held her daughter for the first time, the weight of her, the warmth of her, the impossibility and the miracle of her. Hi, baby girl. Her voice cracked, broke. I've been waiting to meet you. Grace blinked up at her, dark eyes, curious and calm. Everything else faded away. The divorce, the company, the betrayal, none of it mattered. This was what mattered. This small, perfect person who depended on her completely. Derek arrived the next morning. The nurses had warned her he might come. She had agreed to 30 minutes, supervised. He stood in the doorway of the hospital room, looking older than his 36 years, looking uncertain in a way she had never seen before. Can I see her? Caroline nodded, watched him cross to the bassinet, watched him look down at his daughter. His face changed, softened. For a moment, she saw the man she had fallen in love with, the man who had promised forever. He reached out, touched Grace's tiny hand. She's beautiful, he whispered. She looks like you. She has your nose. God help her. They both laughed, a strange, sad, unexpected laugh. Derek pulled up a chair, sat beside the bassinet, did not look away from his daughter. I know I don't deserve to ask for anything, he said. I know I've destroyed every reason you had to trust me, but I want to be part of her life. I want to be her father. Caroline studied him, searching for the lie, the manipulation. Fatherhood isn't about wanting, Derek. It's about showing up, every day, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when there's someone more exciting waiting somewhere else. He flinched. Deserved it. I know I have to earn it, but I want to try. Grace stirred, made a small sound, content and unaware. You can try, Caroline said finally. But I'm not holding my breath. Actions matter. Words don't. He nodded, stayed for the rest of his 30 minutes, held Grace for the first time. Caroline watched him cry, genuine tears. For the first time, she saw something human in him. It did not change anything, but it meant something. The divorce finalized 6 months after Grace's birth. The settlement was substantial. Caroline retained controlling interest in Mitchell Technologies. Derek kept his 49%, but was barred from executive positions pending ongoing investigations. The forensic accountants found more than Kevin's files had revealed. Patterns of embezzlement going back years. Hidden accounts in 3 countries. Enough evidence to potentially bring criminal charges. Derek's lawyers negotiated a deal. Restitution to the company, community service. No jail time, but permanent damage to his reputation. Amber Sinclair left Boston 2 weeks after the board meeting. Last anyone heard, she was working for a startup in Austin, no longer anyone's future wife. Ruth Mitchell sent a letter in December. Caroline found it in her mailbox on a cold gray afternoon. Handwritten on expensive stationery, the Mitchell family crest embossed on the envelope. Caroline, I will never forgive myself for not seeing who my son had become. I was so proud of his success that I ignored how he achieved it. I defended him against you. I called you names. I believed his lies over your truth. You deserved better. From Derek, from me, from everyone. If you allow it, I would like to know my granddaughter. Not as Derek's mother, just as a woman trying to do better than she has. Whatever you decide, I understand. Ruth. Caroline read the letter twice, folded it carefully, set it aside. She did not know if she would respond. Did not know if forgiveness was something she could offer. But she knew the door was not permanently closed. That felt like growth. Spring came slowly to Pennsylvania. The snow melted. The crocuses pushed through the frozen ground. The world began to breathe again. Caroline's farmhouse sat at the end of a long gravel drive. White clapboard, green shutters, a wraparound porch where she could watch the sunset every evening. She had bought it 3 months after Grace was born, close enough to Philadelphia for business, close enough to her mother for Sunday dinners, far enough from Boston to feel like a fresh start. Grace was 9 months old now, crawling everywhere, getting into everything, filling every room with noise and chaos and joy. Caroline sat on the porch swing, watching the sun sink below the hills. Grace played on a blanket at her feet, attacking a stuffed elephant with passionate concentration. The baby monitor sat on the railing, turned off. No more sleepless nights. No more walking the floor at 3 a.m. Grace had finally learned to sleep through the night. Miracles existed. Caroline was certain of it now. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maggie. Q, 2 numbers look strong. Board meeting next week to discuss expansion. You should come. They miss you. Caroline smiled. Typed back, maybe. I'll let you know. She had stepped back from day-to-day involvement in Mitchell Technologies, still owned her majority stake, still attended the important meetings. But she had learned something in the past year. Power was not about control. It was about choice. She could choose to run the company if she wanted, could choose to sell her stake and walk away, could choose anything in between. The freedom was intoxicating. Grace made a triumphant sound. She had conquered the elephant. It lay vanquished beneath her tiny hands. Good job, baby girl. Caroline leaned down, kissed her daughter's head. You showed that elephant who's boss. Grace looked up at her, those dark eyes, curious and bright. Ma, she said, her first word, 2 weeks ago. Caroline had cried for an hour. Ma's here. Ma's always going to be here. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. The air smelled of new grass and coming rain. Somewhere, a bird sang. Caroline thought about the woman who had stood behind that marble pillar 14 months ago. Frozen with shock, certain her life was over. That woman had been wrong. Her life had not ended. It had finally, fully begun. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She had been her own warden. It had taken betrayal to set her free, heartbreak to find her strength, loss to discover what she truly wanted. Not the big house, not the successful husband, not the life that looked good from the outside. This quiet porch, this peaceful evening, this daughter who carried her eyes and her grandmother's stubbornness. This was enough. This was more than enough. Let me tell you a story, Caroline said softly. Grace looked up, attentive. Once upon a time, there was a woman who thought she needed someone else to feel complete. She spent years pretending to be smaller than she was, years hiding her light so someone else could feel like the sun. Grace reached up, touched her mother's face. And then one day, she heard something terrible, something that broke her heart into a million pieces. She thought it was the worst moment of her life. The wind stirred the trees. The swing creaked gently. But it wasn't the worst moment. It was the beginning of everything real, everything true, everything that mattered. Grace yawned. Her eyes started to droop. She learned that the prison door had been unlocked all along, that she had been her own warden, and when she finally walked through that door, Caroline's voice caught. When she finally walked through, she found something she never expected. What? A voice from behind her. Patricia, emerging onto the porch with 2 glasses of lemonade. Caroline smiled, took the offered glass. She found herself, the real her, the one she had been hiding for so long. Patricia sat down beside her, watched her granddaughter fight sleep. That's a good ending. It's not an ending. Carolyn leaned her head against her mother's shoulder. It's just the beginning. The sun disappeared below the horizon. The first stars emerged. Grace fell asleep on her blanket, one hand still clutching the defeated elephant. Everything was quiet. Everything was peaceful. Everything was finally, beautifully beginning. Derek came for his monthly visit the following weekend. He arrived on time, brought appropriate gifts, said appropriate things. He had been attending therapy, working on what his counselor called his issues with vulnerability and intimacy, trying to become the father he had never been the husband. Caroline let him hold Grace while she made coffee, watched them together through the kitchen window. He was trying, she could see that. Whether trying would be enough remained to be seen. She's getting so big, Derek said when she returned. I feel like I miss everything. You're welcome more often. The custody agreement is flexible. I know, He looked down at his daughter, at the person he had almost lost entirely. I'm afraid of messing up again, of being the father my father was. Then don't be. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Caroline sat across from him, held her coffee with both hands. You make a choice every single day, to show up or not, to be present or not, to put her first or not. Derek nodded, studied Grace's face. I don't deserve your patience after everything I did. No, you don't. Carolyn's voice was matter-of-fact. But this isn't about you. It's about her. She deserves a father who tries. Even if that father failed her mother completely. I'm sorry. For all of it. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. Caroline looked at him for a long moment, at the face she had loved, the face that had lied to her for years. I believe you're sorry. I believe you wish things had been different. She paused. But I don't need your apology anymore. I have moved past the point where your words affect me. Is that healing? I think so. It feels like freedom. Grace started to fuss. Derek handed her over. Their hands touched briefly during the transfer. Nothing, no spark, no pain. Just 2 people connected by a child, nothing more. Derek left an hour later. Promised to come back in 2 weeks. Got in his car and drove away. Caroline stood on the porch, watching until his taillights disappeared around the curve. What do you think, baby girl? She asked Grace. Is your daddy going to figure it out? Grace blew a raspberry. Her opinion on the matter was unclear. Yeah, I guess we'll see. The months passed. Seasons changed. Grace learned to walk, then run, then climb everything in sight. Caroline attended board meetings, made investment decisions, built something lasting from the ruins of her marriage. The money grew. The company thrived. The name Mitchell Technologies became synonymous with innovation and integrity. Ironic, really. Derek's greatest legacy would be the company his ex-wife transformed after he was gone. On Grace's first birthday, they threw a party at the farmhouse. Patricia made a cake from scratch. Brooke brought champagne. Maggie flew in from Boston. Kevin came too. He had testified in the financial investigation, lost friends, gained something harder to define. I never thanked you properly, Caroline told him. What you did took courage. It took too long, Kevin said. I should have come to you years ago. You came when it mattered. That's what counts. Grace sat in her high chair, covered in frosting, utterly delighted with life. This was Caroline's family now, not the one she had imagined, not the one she had planned. Something better, something real. Ruth Mitchell sent a gift, a silver rattle that had belonged to Derek's grandmother, a note that said simply, "For Grace, with hope." Caroline put the rattle in Grace's room, put the note in a box with the other letters Ruth had sent. Maybe someday, maybe forgiveness would come. For now, it was enough to leave the door open. The birthday party lasted until dark. Lanterns lit the porch. Laughter filled the air. Caroline stood at the edge of the celebration, watching her daughter be loved by people who mattered. "Penny for your thoughts," Maggie said, appearing at her elbow. "I was thinking about how different everything is. A year ago I was terrified, alone, certain I had ruined everything. And now? Now I'm grateful for the pain, for the betrayal, for all of it." Maggie raised an eyebrow. Grateful? If Derek hadn't shown me who he really was, I might have spent the rest of my life pretending, hiding, being smaller than I am. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe, maybe not. Dit. Carolyn watched Grace grab a fistful of cake. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are really the best things. We just can't see it at the time. Grace looked up, caught her mother's eye, smiled a frosting-covered smile. "Ma," she shouted, her favorite word. "I'm here, baby." Carolyn crossed to her daughter, wiped frosting from her cheeks. "I'm always going to be here." Later that night, after the guests had gone and Grace was asleep, Caroline sat on the porch swing, alone. The stars were bright. The crickets sang. The world was quiet and peaceful and full of possibility. She thought about everything she had lost. The marriage, the fantasy, the life she thought she wanted. She thought about everything she had gained. The company, the freedom, the daughter who was the center of her universe. The trade was uneven, in her favor, not despite the pain, because of it. Caroline closed her eyes, breathed in the cool night air. "I'm going to be okay," she whispered, to herself, to the darkness. To whoever might be listening, the words felt true. Finally, completely true. Everything was not just beginning anymore. Everything was exactly right. The end. 5 years later. Grace Mitchell started kindergarten on a sunny September morning. She wore a pink backpack and light-up sneakers. Her dark hair was pulled into 2 lopsided ponytails. Caroline walked her to the classroom door, knelt down to straighten her collar. "You're going to have the best day," she said. "You're going to learn so much and make so many friends. Will you be here when I get out?" "I will be right here, waiting." Grace hugged her tight, that fierce, trusting hug that children give without reservation. Then she squared her shoulders, marched into the classroom, did not look back. Caroline stood in the hallway for a long moment, watching through the window as her daughter found a seat, made conversation with the girl next to her, laughed at something the teacher said. Brave. Her daughter was so brave. Derek picked Grace up every Wednesday and every other weekend. He had remarried 2 years ago. A woman named Claire who seemed kind and steady and nothing like Amber. Caroline hoped he was happy, genuinely hoped it, not for his sake, for Grace's. A happy father was a better father. She walked back to her car, sat behind the wheel for a moment. The farmhouse was quiet now. Patricia had her own apartment in town. Brooke visited on weekends. Maggie called every Tuesday. But the days were long, the rooms were empty. Caroline's phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. The Soul meeting is confirmed for next month, and there's a message from that documentary team. They want to interview you for the Women in Tech series. She typed back, "Confirm Soul. Tell the documentary team, yes. Time to stop hiding. Time to tell her story." Caroline started the car, pulled out of the school parking lot. The sun was warm through the windshield. The radio played a song she liked. The world stretched out ahead of her, full of possibility. "Here we go," she said to no one, to everyone. The journey continued. If this story touched your heart, if Caroline's journey reminded you of your own strength, I would be so grateful if you could hit that like button. Your support helps more women find stories that inspire and validate their experiences. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, please share this story with them. Sometimes a single story can change everything. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever discovered strength you didn't know you had? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me more than you know. If you're new here, welcome to our family. Hit subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss another story. We share powerful narratives of women who overcome, rebuild, and rise stronger than before. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening until the end. Your time means everything to me. Closing statement. This content has been carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team. Every story we create is crafted with intention, designed to bring meaningful lessons and emotional value to our audience. We believe that stories have the power to heal, inspire, and transform. Our mission is to create content that validates your experiences, honors your struggles, and celebrates your strength. Thank you for trusting us with your time. Until next time, remember, the door has always been unlocked. You just have to walk through.